Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Laser Sports Academy podcast. We're here today with two very special guests. Big warm welcome to Mr. You've got the happy face on, so we'll start with you, Mr. Ryan Holmes, co-founder of Laser Sports Academy, mate. Nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's good to be here. Another pod, another day, and
Yep.
I'm sure some interesting chats to be had.
Absolutely, and that's why we got the next guest on, Mr. Nick Risk. Wax plays for the legendary team in Australia, Catalyst, ex-Wolfpack. Lots and lots of trophies involved. If you want to hear the full trophy list, go back to the last pods. We don't have enough time today to go through it, to be quite honest. So we're just going to introduce him straight up. Mr. Wax, how are you, bud?
Yeah, not bad of yourself.
Very well, very well. A little bit like this today at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. As you know, poor old Wax he's dying in his room because he had to turn his fan off because it was making too much noise through the pod. So on occasion, he might just start drifting off to sleep. Just have to shake him up through the internet.
Yeah. These boys are roasted. I'm here in my bloody jumper.
Yeah, I don't know. This is Australia for you, right?
Yeah.
4 different climates in 4 different corners. All good. All right. Great to have you here today, guys. We're here to have a pretty interesting conversation today. We called it State of the Game. And by that, we mean, let's just talk about where the game's at. I'm really keen to get Wax on for this pod because he's been around for around 10 years now. So he's kind of seen enough of the scene.
10 years.
Wait till you hit triple figures, mate. Then you'll know about it.
Triple figures.
No, not quite. There is a 3 in there though. Hit 30 now. Wax has got some really cool opinions on things. We really wanted to get him on to discuss them, and also
That's
talk
a nice
a little
way
bit.
of saying that, Bootza. That's a very nice way of saying.
I need like a dumping his band sign so I can just pull it up every time I talk about it.
This is why we're not going live, Wax. Okay, it's okay. we can change things. No, I'm only joking. All right, and we're going to also talk a little bit about, in response to a viewer question we had regarding how top teams prepare for new arenas. We thought, well, we've got 3 of us in here today who have all played at the top end. Let's have a discussion about that as well. So it's kind of a 2-part pod today. But to start off, we're going to have a little bit of a chat about the state of the game, particularly in Australasia. So you've been around. Your first Nats was in 2016 at home in Brisbane, Wax. So you've now played how many? 7 plus plus a
too much. Way too much.
Too much.
Not okay.
Tell us, what's the biggest thing or things that have changed in your time since you've been in the scene?
It's definitely a lot faster. Like it was always fast in Australia. Like it's always been quick. Like every other country around the world who plays over here is like, oh, you guys are too fast. Like it's way too fast. I think it's always been like that. But I think like the last couple of years, I think the one that made it the biggest step for me was Sunny Coast with how Sunny Coast played. Like I think that's having those 3 top teams all training at the one maze. And it just, everyone had their own take on how to play. And it just, like, that's when it took the next step, in my opinion. I think before that, Albury was very, like, you could still play, everyone still played the same. You just played 2-3. Like, certain people did different stuff, but, like, you could just win by being better. And your strategy didn't have to be that crazy. You could just out-diff people. You could diff people. You could diff their defense. You could diff in your defense. And there wasn't too many strategic calls throughout the game unless like you were a more experienced team like the Maroons, but the Maroons had a bad year that year, so they didn't get to really show it off like in the finals and stuff, where the finals was kind of, there was some dumping and stuff, I think, from memory. I don't exactly remember it, but I think 1UP did dump in the finals. But that was just to claw back a little bit. But I think the strategic, it's definitely like a lot more strategic now. And back in like Brisbane, I just remember like, I don't even know what we did. Like there's in the finals, 4 of us go to a dump base to get the dumped base because we don't like, we are just headless chooks. Like no idea what's happening, just running around. Lakeo doesn't know what's going on barely, but he's the most clued into it all. But it was from there to now, rewatching those videos is wild. Like they're completely different. Like, yeah.
Yeah,
But
if you were watching like the stream nowadays and you saw like any team in the top 10 commit like 4 to a dumped base, you'd be like, what on earth are they doing? Like, they should not be doing that. So it's so funny. Like, yeah, that was like a grand finals game that happened. So
It's
it's
just because we were
I
so
don't know.
inexperienced. We just was shitting ourselves pretty much. We didn't know what to
yeah,
do.
well, we were like, at that particular time, we were knew that you guys were inexperienced, but we were also shit scared of Husky and Blue, and we were like, okay, if we go down there with 5 players, we have to get in, and then hopefully they make a mistake from there. So that's essentially what happened. But um, just to address your the speed thing, like I feel like this is brought up by Moomin as well in the last podcast we did. But we had so many accidents at Hobart, like numerous people went to
We
hospital.
always do. I feel like we always do. We always have a couple. Like we every year we have a couple of like big collisions or something. Mostly
Yeah.
Not
Mopar, but
not so many
yeah, that is
hospitalizations
true.
It was
though.
almost like it went to another level this year. Like there was like quite a lot. There was like, I mean, some of them were just for general health reasons, but there was quite a few like Alcarai tripped over, smacked his head, and there was others in there as well. And I feel like because the level is getting so high, and the games are getting so close around that top end, it's almost like the top players are kind of pushing the boundaries of what's safe in order to try and get a competitive advantage. I know, particularly, I cleaned up Alcarai and Sunny Coast, and it was because I couldn't get into a base, and I was like, I need to get into this base if we're going to win this game, and I just went 5% faster than I should have and nearly killed somebody by running through them. And I thought, okay, I'm never ever doing that again. But that is an example of like a mindset of somebody who's like hyper competitive, right? And all you want to do is like get the result for your team.
And I think also, I feel like the level, especially at the top end, is starting to level out a lot more. Like we've seen a lot of like pretty extreme dominant. I mean, obviously Hobart just like cleaned up everyone this year, but for the most part, the amount of like crazy dominance from like just one or two teams is like less and less every year. And so because the all of the players are so much closer in terms of their actual skill sets, when you have two players who, you know, hypothetically have the exact same skill set, a lot of the time it'll come down to physical attributes. I think it's physical attributes haven't mattered as much, but now like when you've everyone's getting so bloody good, that guy that's going like a little bit faster than the other person might make it to X point to get all those tags. You know what I mean? Or um, especially on 2 shots per second. I think a lot of the time where we see like the pretty crazy speed is trying to get someone out of a last line position.
Mm.
Last lines are getting really bloody good. And on
Mm.
2 shots per second, it's really hard to get them out without either A, like some good coordinating with your teammates, or B, like just going crazy fast. So yeah, there's definitely like a lot of factors there. And I would agree that on average, I think I've always played super fast, but I think on average the everyone's getting a bit faster for sure.
I also think like I noticed it a lot. Like I haven't been playing that much, but when we played on Sunday, and there was the amount of times that someone would just like spawn on the door and just go. But people have
Mm.
gotten so good as well at exiting, so it's kind of like it's not as bad. But I remember back in the day, you just have people not know how to exit, and then they just exit and just walk out the door, and they just get absolutely cleaned up. And it's like, what are you doing? Like, do you know? Like, just take an outside walking way, and then make your way out slowly. You don't need to rush out. But because people, that's another thing I see a lot is what you're saying before, Butzer, with you need a little bit more. You need that 5%. The 5% is exiting the base even if
Mm.
there is someone there. The amount of times I see that happening and they spawn on the base, and because a lot of the times it's so hard to ref, a lot of people spawn half in and half out and just go. And then they hit someone, they complain about being blocked, and then they don't get the deny or whatever happens. Like it's just like all those small things that people get worked up, and then they start doing a little bit more, and then it's just going to cause things. Like if it's an actual problem, like having movement talk about it as much as he did, I can kind of see how it's a problem. But I think because the culture of Australia and the way that we've played for so long is like it kind of just accepted and adapted that this is okay. Like we have to either decide that it's okay, and we just need to like have better explanations on how to exit a base and how to maybe we make it you have to call that you're exiting a base, or you have to do something like so that it's safer. Or maybe we just have combat medics on site all the time, just ready to go. Just ready to go.
Paramedics.
Someone dies.
Well,
We'll just have Husky there ready to like
yeah,
help
we've got
people.
Griffo and Husky already. What, two for
Exactly.
200 people? That should be all right. It's actually, he brought up a really good suggestion, actually, and like maybe, you know, obviously there's always changes every time the game evolves. There are solutions which mean that we don't have to, you know, compromise the game, hopefully. And one of those solutions that Moomin come up with was having lines inside the base area. So his example was in green at Hobart, where you'd have the wings, you'd have a couple of like lions there, which if there's somebody last lining standing under the base and they get shot, they have to go, they can't cross the line. That makes sense. They can only walk back and around and outside the
like
line.
what we had in Sunny Coast, like with the boxes, kind of like the boxes. I felt were really good at Sunny Coast because if you did exit just straight through the boxes, you would get taken out. But if you did what you were supposed to do, it was more most of the time okay.
Yeah, it was kind of like that, except the lines are inside the base, near where the last line stands, and it's just there to direct the last line out of the base safely, essentially. So I was like, oh, that's a pretty novel idea.
I think
Worth trying.
it's good, but like no matter what, that was a rule this year anyway. What was the thing that they kept saying that every time before the game they were like, make sure you exit at the back of the tee, make sure you exit at the back and then walk around, make sure you exit. And just kept like how many times can you say and do one thing until someone just gets cleaned up and smacked against the wall and learns the hard way.
Well, I think we know one thing is that refs love lines and like very clear, like, you know, if there's we've had refs that have terminated for a shoelace over the line before, which is obviously taking the rule way out of context. But like I guess the point is that if you create like a very clear delineation, here's within the rules, here's outside of the rules, becomes a little bit easier to ref from that perspective.
Yeah. It's more black and white, right?
Yeah.
Which, I mean, it should be black and white anyway, but sometimes people are like, oh, yeah. Especially when it's like, I don't know, if you know it's a player that they already look heated and stuff, and you know, like if you term them, they're just going to go, what? You know?
Yeah.
It's pretty like confronting for a lot of people, but it was like, there's a very obvious line on the ground. I was like, bro, I didn't step over that line, you did. It's, I think it makes it a little bit easier for refs to make that decision.
Yeah, that flows well into another part of the conversation I want to have. We might as well have it sort of tuck into it now. We might move around the agenda a little bit today, lads. But we wanted to talk about reffing and, you know, what progress we've made in reffing, where we're at. I guess we want to pre-frame this whole thing with all the refs are volunteer refs and they're also player refs. If somebody's listening to this and they don't play our sport. So that offers a lot of challenges for us because people are giving up their discretionary time essentially to ref, and they're not got any specific training other than like shadowing another referee, which doesn't have a specific set of like boxes that need to be ticked. You just kind of stand next to another referee and watch them do it. And if nothing happens in those 5 games or whatever that you're there shadowing, then you might not actually learn anything.
Sign off.
Easy sign off. Exactly.
I did not know that. I was about to ask if that's a thing or not, but that is wild that you can literally just get a free pass through without even doing anything.
Well, the master ref can say that I think you should do some more games because nothing's happened, but they don't necessarily need to.
All right, I'm going to do that next year then. That's going to happen.
Yeah.
You should have at least experience terming someone before you actually get signed off. I feel like in an actual game.
Yeah, totally. So I guess we're gonna, before I jump into that question, the reason I brought it up is because having the lions and stuff like that make it easier to train refs given the context of like we got volunteer refs, I guess. But to continue on with that discussion, what areas do you think we've made progress in the 10 years you've been in, Wax?
In reffing?
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like every year it goes like there's always one thing that they're like, this is the thing you have to focus on, and then there's only terms for that, and everyone else is like, oh, that person's covering, oh, that person's doing this, I don't see it anymore. But I feel like there's always one thing every year that it's just like, this is the main issue in this maze. We need to focus on this. Like I remember there was one year there was swearing, like there was just swearing terms for everyone, like it was just crazy. And then there was another year that was like speed through, I think it was Sunny Coast. So it was like everyone was just getting termed for like entering the base and stuff. There was just so many terms for that. And then there's always something that they push there was something at Adelaide. I remember being told about it as well. But there's always something that's getting pushed. But it just needs to be like, I feel like when I started, I didn't ref. I was lazy as all hell. Like I didn't want to do anything. I was just like, I just want to shoot things and go home. Let me just shoot things and go home. But it was okay because we had Payne. Payne would ref like 100+ games every nat, so it was fine. So we always met our reffing quota. But I just didn't really enjoy it because I didn't want to sit there and fight with people. And that's me not wanting to fight with people. If I don't want to fight with people, little like new player who's played 2 years, who's doesn't even know who they're terming, isn't gonna term anyone. But I think the progression is like, I remember like reffing being scary at first. I remember being like, "Oh, there's a ref." Like I don't want to do anything. But now like I don't even I like if I get termed or if someone gets termed, like I'm surprised. Like I'm like, what? Wait, actually, this is crazy. They actually get termed. Like I feel like all it is
No way.
now is for me at least, is if I see someone doing something, I'm doing a wall dot and like, whoa, look over here! Oh my god, this person! But you can't say anything. You just have to like make the noise so that the ref is like, oh my god, screw! And then they look over there, and it's like impossible. Like it is impossible to ref properly because we don't have enough refs. No one actually knows how to do it. It takes so much confidence to ruin someone's game. Like it's not good. And that's coming from me. Like I termed the most people this snats, and like even I was like sometimes like, I don't know if that was a term. Like I was looking over there, but I saw that like that should be a term, but I'm not confident because I didn't 100% see it. So it's just like, it is difficult. Like it is really, really difficult to do and do it well consistently and not get abused, which you're always going to get abused. And then you don't, who wants to ref when you're a volunteer and you're getting abused? Like, but then you can red button and then they can get in trouble. There's all these things in the way, but it's still just one of the most difficult things to do.
I definitely know a few players myself that have just like they refused to ref ever again just because of like one bad experience they had where they gave out a term and then the person exploded and then they were like, okay,
I don't have
no,
to do
I'm
this.
good.
I literally don't have to be
this.
here.
I'll get my teammate to do it. Like,
Yeah.
cool. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's something there in like a more serious repercussions for giving refs attitude or something. I don't know.
Ryan, do you know what the numbers are on the average terms given out, like in Hobart compared to the previous years? Do you know if we're terming more or less than previous years?
I feel like it's always more, or at the very least, the percentage of verbals versus terminations is definitely less, and that there's less verbals and more terminations happening, which I think is a good thing because I think the verbal is just a case of like Wax was saying, maybe you did see something, but you're not 100%, you know. So you're like, and maybe that player is like a scary player, and you think they're gonna throw a fit at you. So you're like, I'm just gonna give them a verbal. So like, you know, I've done my due diligence, but I'm like not gonna ruin their game, and they can go and then keep playing. But yeah, I think it's definitely a good sign that we're seeing less verbals and more terminations. I like that that's been a push like every year. I'm not sure in terms of overall terms what it looks like to previous years. I think the most was like Darwin 2020. That was when I remember the most terminations happening. But yeah, I don't know. I think in general, just less verbals, more terminations happening is probably a good thing.
Yeah, I've got no data to back this up, but this is what I think I've seen. Definitely, I feel like we're terming more now than we did like 10, 15 years ago. Like 10, 15 years ago, there's just like the complaints about reffing were, believe it or not, even more than they are now. They were like, wow. It was crazy. But what used to happen is that we used to rely heavily on a small number of people reffing a lot of games, which probably meant that to some degree the quality of the refereeing was good, and we might have regressed a little bit, which is why we saw so many verbals when we. For everybody not from Australia, we have these things called community goals, where you need to like contribute on as a like a event assistant event coordinator or refereeing, or you got to do like things at Nats in order to get spots for your state, team spots. So since that's come in, people are required to ref more, and we've done a lot of work in Australia on training up new refs, getting them qualified by like master refs and that whole thing. So we've done like quite a lot of work on qualifying referees, but it's possibly taken time for all the new like wave of referees who are often like the younger, more experienced ones, or the ones that were intimidated by reffing, to actually get their skill set up, which may have been a reason that we actually had like a lot of verbals there for a while. And hopefully we're seeing them now get to a point where they've got the confidence to penalise, because it's an absolutely valid point that you brought up, Wax, around people being like scared to turn. Like you've got, especially if you're like playing in the bottom tier, you've just, might be your first or second year and you've only maybe refed a handful of games, and you go in there and ref a game between like second, third and seventh on the ladder, and these guys have all been playing for 10 years and they're playing 100 mile an hour at a level that you've never even seen before. And then you think you see somebody break a rule, like it's very intimidating for a player in that position to like point the God box and potentially cost one of the top teams competition points, because if it impacts the result, then they're going to be super, super upset about it. So that's why, it's much easier just to give a verbal and put the God box away, essentially, which obviously isn't necessarily the right thing to do. So, yeah, one of the things we could go to work on is figuring out how we actually maybe make it easier for less experienced refs to term players that are particularly around the top end of the ladder.
I think it would be interesting. I don't think it fixes it. It makes more issues, but like an anonymous term or something, so you don't get the backlash. But then like the issue of like, did that actually happen? Like people could just start terming people like out of nowhere. Like I don't think there's any simple fix. Like reffing's even you see it in other sports. Like you see soccer, they're just abusing the ref all the time, and then they're red carding people just for back like talking back to them and stuff. Like they're just it's just a hard thing to do, and when you're not getting paid to do it properly, what's the like it's or you just hate things. Like I just hate covering with a passion and cheating. I hate cheating so much. If you cheat and you know about it, you're a bad person. But like I'm like that because I think like that. But a lot of people they're like, oh, if something happens, like it might not have been on purpose. Like you don't know, like they could have just done that on accident. But you know the people who do it on purpose. But that's like the reason what motivates me. But like if you don't have if you don't have people who are motivated by like these things that annoy them, they're just gonna sit in there, AFK, snoring away. Like even I at Nats I refed a lot of games, but I would after a certain amount of time I'd get tired, so I'd leave. Like I'd have to leave. And there's people who stay in there like all day. Again, it's like I don't know how you sit in the dark, nice and cold, nice and comfy, nice in your jumper, just stand there watching a game and can still ref even 50%. Like it takes a toll if you're in there for a couple hours. Like so I definitely think we need to like pull people out, which I know we do. It needs to be we need to like encourage it. It needs to be a thing where like maybe we don't tell people they have terms until the AEC is standing next to them. Like we hold them in the briefing. So at the end of the game, everyone sits in the briefing room, not in the briefing room, pack room for 15 seconds. Then refs, are we all good? And then yep, no. And then they quickly talk to the person, and then they tell them in front of everyone so that there's no way that the person can overreact. They can't. If they have any more in-depth questions, they can come speak about it when the ref comes out. I don't know. Like there needs to be something, because I feel like it's too scary for normal people who aren't gonna just like be like, no, you get termed. Just deal with it, bozo. And then like some people just can't do that. They don't have that bone in their body.
I feel like one of the big things that'll help is like I think that the broadcasting side of things come a long way, right? Like we're getting the camera quality and stuff inside the bases is better, and I think when we can like leverage that to actually help coach the the refs, it'll make a big difference in the reffing. Because at the moment, there's no accountability for the non-call, right? The ref that stands there and watches somebody breach a baseline or something, but doesn't make the call. If no other player sees it or whatever, like they're not, the ref doesn't get held to account or doesn't get trained or coached appropriately for the mistake they made. And I feel like I hope that soon we can get to a point where we can set up cameras in a way where we can actually use it as a training tool for the refs as well. So that they actually have to, I'm talking about, obviously we don't have paid people to sit there.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. I think it's just difficult because like it's all volunteers as well.
Yeah.
I think if we got to a point where maybe we had like a couple paid, but even then paid by us, like these are probably going to be ex-players or players who have made friendships over the years. Like there's no winning. Like that's just how I see it. Like it's all just screwed. Like there's no winning. Just
what do we need refs in there for anyway?
Exactly. Just everyone start cheating. Come on, let that happen. As long as you don't dump, I'm fine.
I can promise you there has been progress, even though it may look like there's a long way to go. There has definitely been progress since the early days, that's for sure. Is there anything more that we want to add about reffing before moving on, guys? The whole reffing thing, because it is a difficult one, and there's no one answer. I think it's going to be the combination of like multiple little solutions to get there. And I think we're on the right track with where we've been going. Definitely, the quality of the reffing is probably the next thing for the committee to focus on.
I haven't thought about this much. I literally just thought about it just then. But it'd be cool if, like, instead of having everyone have a lot of refs, they just pick a player who enjoys reffing and wants to ref a lot, and maybe they come to Nats and there's like a reffing training day or some shit, and you go in there, you do one player from every team gets like extensive training for reffing, so that they feel more comfortable with the box in hand, in the maze, making the calls, because they've seen it. Like, I feel like a lot of people haven't seen it. They're like, oh, I think that was a cover, but like, I'm not 100% sure. So they either give a verbal or just leave it. But if we do some training with like a bunch of players for like 3 hours or a couple hours in person, people feel more comfortable and they feel more safe, and they will feel better and more confident in their choices and stuff. I think that could be interesting, but I also think that's just more Nats time and more resources and blah, 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 all those things.
I definitely agree with that. Like, pretty much any problem you put on, like, how do we solve world hunger? Education. Like, it's like education could be the solution for so many problems. I think it's the same here. Like, if we could find like the time or the person to provide the training or the people to provide the training, that definitely go a long way to helping us improve the quality. All right, so I've got a question for both of you guys. If you could make, let's say, 1 or 2 changes to Zeltac, whether it's the actual game format, the scheduling, like anything to do with Zeltac to improve the sport, what would they be?
Can I go first?
Go first, bro.
Delete round robin.
Ooh, boom.
Just get rid of it. Make it like
delete round. I thought you said like elite round robin.
No. Delete it. Make it 6 games. Make round robin tiny. Just even if it's scuffed as hell, make it really weighted, unweighted. No, make it just really like you win, you go up. If you lose, you go down. Like just make it crazy, and then like make Cascade 1 like half weighted, and then 2 and 3 are just like normal. So like it's just get rid of all these
more cascades.
More cascades. Less farming people who don't know how to play. Like it's not fun for anyone. It's not fun for the good team. It's not fun for the bad team. It's not fun for the team that has to kind of play for second, but there's a third team that's going to do something weird, and then the better team who's going to absolutely roll them, but they don't. Like, it's hard to like. They need to get the second. They can't get the first because they're not good enough. But they can't lose to the worst team, because if they do, then the whole thing's screwed up. So I think it's difficult, but I would like to see some form of reduction in cascade, because like Moomin said in the thing, like it's like 6 days or something. That's wild. I don't think when you've played for so long, you don't think about these things. And like everything he said was like very true. Like side events are drag. Like you're like, all right, I got the first game, and I got the 18th game. All right, I'm gonna go lunch. I'll come back. I'll go see a movie, and then I'll come back. Like you have so much time to do these things, and then like it's just you go into the game, you're not warmed up, you have to play an important game without any like form of warming up or anything. You could maybe you haven't played laser tag with the scheduling for like you didn't have round robin games in the morning, so you didn't play all morning, and then you you have to play the last two games of like towards the end of doubles, and maybe you're someone who's really good at doubles. You lose one, you got a repcharge. Maybe you've warmed up, then you just easily win the repcharge, and then you ruin it for everyone else because you should have already made it through. Like I don't know. I think it's like something is weird. Like I don't know how to fix it. Like, but side events, there's just too many people. It's not.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel good. And round robin just ain't it. Ain't it? It's not it. We need to change it. It's just a grueling slugfest of who can score the most points, and then like look how weird round robin was this year. Like we had Sabres on top. Who else was on top?
Yep. Yep.
I don't even
You got to
remember.
say, bro? We were second.
Oh, okay, let's see. Boom. Second place.
Ha!
That's weird. Why are they second? Like Vikings, were Vikings third? Or were they lower?
They were first. They were first.
Oh, they were first? Okay.
It was us first, Vikings first, us second, and then Sabres third, I believe.
But you guys went fourth, which is weird. I think that's the weird thing I'm feeling right now.
That's weird. We should have been fourth, like
from
every
the
stage
start.
of the tournament.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think round robin is something that's like definitely should be looked at, because right now it's just like 6 days of nothingness, and like we should be able to remove at least 2 days of that. Like there's days where you play a game. Like there's a way that we can make it so it's not like that. When you really think about it, like we've just done it for so long, and Moomin has just brought all these points, and everyone's kind of like, oh wait, that's kind of true. Like this is an actual issue. But unless we split up the event, like my big thing is like I wish if COVID never happened, I think we would be at a point where we could split the event up right now. COVID absolutely reamed us and set us back like another 5 years or something, where we will need to probably be another discussion in 5 years time, maybe a bit longer depending on like growth of scenes and stuff. But like before COVID, we were talking very actively about like splitting the tournament, and that could have been an interesting thing moving forward, because having just a top tier tournament, that's it. That's all I want. Like I'm not one of those people that likes just dunking on like bad players. It doesn't help my ego. It doesn't make me feel better. Like it's not enjoyable. Like I just want those top tier high end games all the time.
Maybe there is another podcast here, Ryan.
I think there is.
Splitting the tournament. Go.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think if you ask like anyone, what like for the teams event, what's like your least favorite stage? I'm pretty sure unanimously it'll be, or at least for the most part, it'll be like round robin, and it's the bit that takes the longest, like the most time of the whole tournament. So it's kind of it's just one of those things where like we've done it for so long, it made sense maybe when we didn't have 30 plus teams, but now we do. I think it's definitely time for change. And then even if we just did a reduced round robin and then everything else was the same, you got a couple options there. One, you got more time to do, I don't know, something else, whatever. Or like the tournament's like 10 days, right? That's like for a lot of people, it's a massive commitment. Like for anyone that actually trains as well, it's like at least 2 weeks of work. Even if you just take 2 days or whatever, however many days, 2-3 days off of the tournament, and you don't replace it with anything else, I think that's still fine, because it's going to save people like a lot of money. Because it's not just like the extra money for the accommodation, but it's like all the food that you spend on those extra days. So yeah, I'd definitely be keen to see the round robin at the very least just reduced to like like six games. Yeah. Get it over and done with, and then like things will be sorted out throughout the cascades, right?
Yeah.
And then the side events, I don't know if there is. I can't think of any solution with just how many players we have outside of there being 2 separate tournaments, right?
Even then, I think it'd still be an issue. It'd still be like a long thing, but it'd be like half the time.
It'd be way better. Yeah.
One of the suggestions made, I mentioned this in the Moment Pod, but one of the suggestions made by, I think it was Cyrex, about only being able to register for a couple of the of the side events. So if you refine that, so my compromise on that would be you can register for all the side events except for one, and just see how much that reduces the
LOR
number of
just
people.
drops.
LOR just goes to like so little.
There's like 2
Yeah,
players.
actually, having said that, it might not actually save us any time because everybody drops out of LOR, which doesn't save us any arena time anyway. So that might not work. But I mean, I think if you dropped it another one and said you can't play 2 side events, then suddenly you get a lot less doubles or triples.
Very, very depressing.
So, yeah,
not a good way to do it, I feel. I think it's definitely like it's one of those things where like if a new player's like, oh, I'm going to Nats, you're like, and then they're like, and I'll ask them, did they sign up? Do you sign up for all the side events? They're like, oh no, I only signed up for this because I only like this. I'm like, sign up for everything. Go to everything. Why are you wasting your money? Why are you wasting your time? Just play everything. Like,
100%.
Yeah.
So that brings us back to cutting an event. So good luck with that one. Deciding on it's yeah.
You've got 2 law players on here who get out round 1 every year. Like it's not happening. We are not backing cutting law. Don't touch law. Leave law alone.
Leave it alone.
Or just let people who care sign up. If you don't care, don't sign up, please.
Oh jeez. You're gonna make me cry, actually.
Yes, at your service, Wax. I didn't sign up because I didn't care enough, and then somebody reminded me that I should really be getting practice on the packs, and I was like, probably actually that's a good point. But yeah, that's why we had so many in law this year, right? Because everybody just wanted more H2 timing. Yeah, and to the whole more cascades, less round robin thing, I think there's totally a world where that can work, and I like the idea of extending the cascades by 3 games each and doing like a 9-game cascade in each one. Because if you add a third cascade, and brought this up in the last pod as well, the third cascade compresses the ladder too much because every time you have another cascade,
I do remember you saying this.
The difference between first and last gets smaller and smaller, and you get to this is what happened in Bendigo, right? We had one team, might have been Blue Steel that year. They started Cascade 2. At the end of Cascade 2, they were in like 12th or something. Might have been another team, but they basically got a very easy draw, and in Cascade 3, they just went right up to like 3rd or 4th or something like that. And that's what happens when you have 3 cascades is you'll get that team that like is 12th or 13th, but there's only like 4 competition points between like 12th and 5th or something like that. And they just like win all their games and go all the way through. But if you had longer cascade 1 and 2, that's totally going to be fine. So if you did a 6-game round robin and you had 9 in each of cascade 1 and 2, you've got your 24 games that we're currently playing. And ideally you drop a side event like a law or something like that and do a two 12-game cascades and a 6-game.
Just drop solos.
30 team games. Solos. Yeah.
Moomin, I keep thinking of things that Moomin said. Moomin really cooked when he was speaking, and the thing he wrote, he really cooked. Like, I genuinely agree with him as well. Finals day, if I wasn't in finals, would feel terrible. Like, it would feel terrible. You play maybe 2 games. If you're a low tier team, you play 1 game. That's wild. Like you've built up to this thing, and it just doesn't happen. Like, I don't know. Like, there's so many things that he said that are actually really true. Like, if we like the end of the tournament should be the big thing. Like, it should be the big thing. It shouldn't be like decided by such small things. Like, you should, or maybe it should. I don't know. Like, I watch some games where you get knocked out, you're out, you're done, it's over. So the highest stakes, so you have to play like crazy level. But then there's like Overwatch does it where it's the opposite. Like, you win, you get an advantage. You lose, you drop to the lowest bracket, and then you get another advantage. You get another chance, and then if you win again, you can go up. Or no, you stay on the losers bracket. So it's a 2-track pretty much. But I don't know. I think it's one of those things where like maybe it's okay, but maybe it's just like I feel like if you are beneath a point, you should be disadvantaged. So what was it, 16 cutoff, and then they only got 1 track? I don't hate that because I feel like you should, if you want to climb or be in a better spot, you should have to be at a certain point. But also, like, does the rest of the tournament get 2 track after that, or is that how it works?
Yeah, there's 1 game that's 2 track, and then there's like the rest is System D. Is that how it works? I'm pretty sure. Yeah, something like that.
I don't know. It just seems it's one of those things where like I feel like if I wasn't in the finals, I'd feel worse about it. But like I don't want to be an asshole, but both of you weren't in finals this year. How's it like? You guys got 2 games, right? But you got 3 round because you got golden games.
Yeah.
Like I guess
we
3 is
got
okay.
4. Yeah,
4.
we got 4
Okay.
games. Yeah, 4.
How does like that feel? Like because you've also been in finals as well. Like you've done the whole run.
I think 3 games is like plenty. Like
Yeah.
it's enough. Yeah.
Yeah.
By the time you get to that point of the week, if you don't have your game ironed out to a point where
You can do it in
you can
3.
perform in 3, then it's probably like maybe you just weren't there, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan. But yeah, it's one of those things, right? So you got some sports that are like Premier League football, right? Soccer, where the winner who's ever on top of the table. So it's whoever wins the entire competition is an accumulation of a lot of results. Where we do it, and then there's other games like AFL where they have one game to rule them all. It's called the grand final, and you have to win your way through to that. And if you win the grand final, even if you weren't the best team all year, you
Like us in
rank
Bendigo.
as the
We were losing to Spartans left, right, center, and then we just won finals. That's all. That's all that mattered.
yeah.
We worked out
So
our
it's
shit,
like
and then it mattered when it mattered. That was
yeah,
not English, but you know what I mean.
yeah. I like it the way we do it because, particularly when you've got home ground advantage is such a strong thing in laser tag. I think we need to give all the teams the full opportunity of the tournament to get prepared for a series like a grand final. So
Yeah.
I'm totally comfortable with how it works.
Yeah, I think Moomin's definitely right, and I think Nickel also touched on it during the podcast, so maybe just at another point. But everything is leading up to this last day, this finals day, which is supposed to be the most important day of the whole tournament. And if you're a team that is below that bottom 16 and you play like one game, you don't get a warm up game or anything. You just play one game, and it could be your team just like needs one to get into the groove of things. Bad luck.
Yeah.
This is the most important part of the tournament. This is what everything is leading up to, and you get to play one game.
Yeah.
I don't know. It seems a bit backwards.
Now
And I think if you do that partial round robin and that you don't fill it with anything else, then you've got plenty of time to make that last day meaningful, and you could potentially make it 2 days or something. And you could do, I think in Sweden or somewhere they do it where each game is like a 2 or 3 game series. So they all have kind of like a finals experience. You know what I mean? Not just one game. It's like a 3-game series, and if you win that 3-game series, then you can move on. And then if you do that over multiple days, if you have some team that theoretically like goes absolutely crazy and wins like 2 or however many three-game series in a row, then they've got a night to like rest up, and then they can go into the next day and keep on trying to like push that. But yeah, I think it's pretty shit house for anyone in the bottom 16 for sure.
It's purely a time thing, right? So I mean, the system, because we played that system in Sweden. Oh, and we played at the Rumble as well.
Rumble.
That's right, Max. That 3-game series, it just takes a metric shizen ton of time to do. But I actually like it for the golden games in terms of like if we were to incorporate it into golden games, because I think the golden games are so important. It's worth having the extra time to.
I think so, but then you lose the advantage. The only advantage you get is picking the colors. I think if you're above people, you should have the advantage. Now that we're talking about it, I'm thinking about it more. So I'm kind of like, I think the way we do it right now is actually not bad, because if I'm first place in the golden game, I should be able to pick, or give it to the other team to pick.
Yeah.
Like you should get that advantage. And I don't know. I also. I kind of like if you don't do it in the game, you just, it's not it. Like you go down or whatever. Like I think it works because I don't know the way that laser tag works, and the 3 teams, you have a couple opportunities, but if you can't, like what you said before, but so if you can't do it in those 3 attempts, like there's a problem. There's an issue. But I don't know.
So we've come to the conclusion that everything's just dandy.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I think we're at a good state, though. I think, like, I understand what Moomin was saying, like, talking about it more, but I also think if you're 16th or beneath, you shouldn't have that opportunity. You haven't done well enough in the tournament to give you that opportunity to have those games. And we learnt at Rumble that the 3-game series is too much. Like, it is too grueling. There's no advantage for winning. Like there is a slight advantage, but there's not a big enough advantage. Like we're all name like there's probably like 10 laser tag players that are fit enough to play 9 games in one sitting and then play finals. Like, and even then, that finals performance is going to be miserable. Look at Sharks and Rumble. Like, they weren't doing, in my opinion, they weren't doing great most of the tournament. But like that final day, they had the massive run. They got into finals. They just died. They were done, or they'd used everything in the tank. They'd played like 9 games in a row, and then they had to play another six finals games. That is insane. I couldn't even. I had to sit 2 finals games because I was too unfit. Like, it is too much.
It doesn't seem like much when you say it's a 12-minute game, but when you look at it and go, okay, we played 10 12-minute games today, it's 120 minutes, and the way we play, it's 120 minutes of like hardcore like exercise. Like you are thrashing your body up and down, drop shots, flinging yourself around. Like it's pretty intense if you think about what we're doing. Brings us to another. Before we move on to talking a little bit about Catalyst, and I just want to bring up one more thing: the evolution of the game. So, given that we have I kind of feel agree with what you said before, Ryan, about how we've kind of got to this level, and there's like this group of players now. Maybe you might say there's the top 20 players or whatever, who are all at a pretty similar level. Notwithstanding, obviously, Runt in Hobart on H2, which nobody else had seen before, was at another level. But he's still going to be in that top group regardless of where we go. But I think on average, if we were to play at a whole bunch of different venues on different systems, you would say there's probably 20 players-ish that are all at a super elite level. And at some stage, we're going to have to progress past that. What is that going to look like? What do you guys think that will look like?
I cannot cook. You must cook.
I will cook for a moment. I think if you look at a lot of other sports, like the only sport I actively follow is like fighting based stuff, like boxing and UFC, MMA stuff. But when you look at that, there's so many fights that are decided. Like, round 1 is like the most, super competitive. Both people are like landing strikes or whatever. And then you get to like the later rounds, especially if it's a championship thing where they do 5-minute rounds. So often the fights are decided by like, all right, who put the most preparation into their cardio for this, right? Who's prepared their body the most for this, and that'll quite often be the person that ends up winning the fight. Yeah. And I think we could see laser tag getting to that point where at the highest levels, all the probably not now, but like maybe a few years from now, 5-10 years or something, if you look at those top 20 elite players, they're all like, oh, you look like an athlete, right? You look like you could sprint faster than me. You look like you could probably bench more than me, whatever it is, right? I think, as soon as the skill level starts to level out, the physical attributes matter more. And that's just how I think that's how it ends up in a lot of sports. That being said, there are also those select few players in sports that are just like on another level in terms of their skills. Like they just do things in a different way or whatever. So there's definitely, it's not all physical attributes. I would say for most people that are at a high level, like physical attributes will matter a lot, but there'll be a select few people that just find a way to really like take that next step. And they're just like, it's like watching magic. It's kind of hard to say what that would look like now. I think in general, the skill set of dodging in Australasia specifically, like, is pretty underdeveloped. Like, and that's just because of like the 2 shots per second, right? It's pretty hard to dodge effectively. Even if you do dodge the first shot, you might just double on the on the next shot, right, or whatever. But I think, when I think about it, I think dodging is just a skill that's not very well developed for most players. So that's definitely an avenue it could go. In terms of the timing, it gets to a point where like you're at the top level and like everyone's timing is just like super, super good, especially if it's a system that everyone has played on for a while, right? by the end of a tournament, it's timing's like less of a factor, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I think physical attributes and dodging, I reckon, could be the next bit.
I think laser tag as well is like it's the way the sport is it's not as needed for everyone to be too physical. Like we have a lot of different sized people. We have a lot of different like everything, and there's advantages to everything. I think every team in my brain, a team should have different positions. Like the players should fit a role, and they should be able to cross over and do other things if the game needs it, but they're not always needed to do those things. Like how Catalyst has always been, how Wolfpack has always been. We've had a very diverse like tall left, tall right, wham, grub, tall, will stand on your toes, like you're running around, pain, like it's all different types of stuff. And I think that's a very useful thing for laser tag. But I also think like you could just have like 5 really fast guys just running around and it would be just as like it could just be just as good.
Yeah.
I just think
picture like five dudes from the pick like 5 players from the NBA right now, and you give them like 2-3 years of like hardcore laser tag training, and I reckon they would like destroy everyone because they've got all the attributes, right?
Yeah.
They're tall, so they're gonna have long legs, so they're gonna move fast. They're gonna have long arms, so they're gonna be able to reach really far, right? They're also gonna have like super good cardio, so they're gonna be able to keep up a pace that other people aren't gonna be able to keep up with over the course of a whole tournament or over the course of like a final series. And if you get these guys that are also happen to be like jacked as well, like not super scrawny guys, right, where like they turn and you can see all of their senses still, they have all these attributes and they're super jacked, so when they turn on the side, like you have to reach and it's really hard to shoot their senses. Like, yeah, I think that team, 5 guys from the NBA.
they're not as nimble though. I think it's definitely like, in my opinion, I think cardio. I think cardio is the biggest thing. Like if people have cardio, I think it's fine. I think all these other things in laser tag don't really matter. Maybe it does. Maybe you're cooking and it does. But I think for me, if you can just have a little like enough cardio to last 3 games, 12 minutes. Also, like I've been thinking about it heaps. This is me just throwing this curveball in, but I've been thinking 12 minutes is too much. Like for the game to like actually have meaning, because there's games where they just like there's like time where it just doesn't matter. Like if we put it to 10, shit could get wild. Shit could actually get wild. It'd take a long time for people to get used to it and maybe even accept it, but it would mean that like there's less dead time. Everything you do matters. Every moment of the game matters. Like 10 minutes is a good amount of time. It feels right. If you tell someone it's 12 minutes, they're like, why is it fucking, who picked 12 minutes? What the hell? Like for 10 minutes, like it just feels right. It's got a good.
Did they play 10 minutes in Sweden?
They do.
In Europe?
We played 9 minutes the year I was there just because they had time restraints, and it had exactly the effect you were talking about, Wax. So we made a mistake in our first grand final game of we got dumped onto, and in our format, you defend the dump out for a minute or two, collect the field points, and then make a decision from there. But which is what we did. But in that format, when it's only 9 minutes, you might collect field points for 30 seconds or a minute tops, and then it's like you have to do it. You have to make a move straight away because by that time you've only got 5 or 6 minutes left, and to try and get 5 players all through 2 bases, if you're trying to get the biggest score possible, you need every part of that 6 minutes. So, yeah, I totally agree. And this is another way we can get time back on our tournament too. Imagine if we reduced all the team games back to 10 minutes. Not only would the games be better, you wouldn't have necessarily as much of that, the first 2 or 3 minutes where
just kind of vibing
happens. Everyone's vibing out, just trying to get as many field points as possible.
So the game.
Yeah, and if the theory is you get your field points up early, so that if somebody does something and you have to blow the game up and go to 10, you've already got your field points in the bank. Like that's So we basically cut that out of the game, and it's fun for people in the arena to play that first 2 minutes, but for people watching at home, it's like boring as hell to try and just sit through that first like 2-3 minutes of the game where everybody's just tagging each other essentially. Yeah, and in terms of like other progressions as well, something that I feel will happen at some stage, because it happens in every professional sport, is more focus on mindfulness exercises, things like meditation, and being able to maintain focus in the arena, like complete presence in what you're doing in the arena, even on day 11 after you've basically been out late all night, socializing with the people, and you've haven't been eating the food that you usually eat at home, and you haven't been sleeping in your own bed, and all those things, to be able to maintain your presence inside the game makes a big difference. So something that's happened with all professional sports, and I know from my own experience, it helped me a lot when I first started doing yoga in 2012. Was the first year I hadn't won anything up to that point. I did a year of yoga leading into that tournament, and that was when I had my first breakthrough and won a bunch of events. And it just made a fraction of a second difference to my timing and my concentration and everything like that, which made a big difference. But yeah, Cairns actually did his I think his master's PhD or whatever it's called on flow states. So we might be able to get him onto the pod sometime to talk about that, because it's a very interesting area of science research about flow states. And like, you guys would know the experience of just being in complete and utter flow with your team.
I miss it.
Point where
I don't get it anymore.
You miss it?
Yeah, I don't get it anymore.
What happened?
I don't know. I remember I'd get it all the time. Like, I'd just sit there. I would not be able to tell you what I did, but I just killed 15 people and they had no chance. But now it's like, I think when I took the COVID break, I lost it. Like, my clock in my head used to be so good, it was crazy. But now I have no idea. Like, it's gone. But back then it used to, flow state and clock in my head were insane. And I used to be able to track players through walls so well, and now I'm just like, I think someone's over there. But like, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it's because I more worries and growing up and thinking about more shit. But like, back then I used to my brain used to just know. Like, I would not be able to tell you what I did, but I would have just done it and it happened.
It's totally correlated to, like, I know my two worst years I've ever had was 2013 and 2018 in Albury. And both years I was under incredible amount of pressure at work, like had big projects going on, and was like just not fully present in the games. It made a massive difference to my performance, because you only have to be off a fraction of a second, right? And suddenly you're losing
standoffs. You never lose, yeah.
Yeah. So it's an interesting area. And conversely, I've had experiences where, like we were saying, when you can track what's happening on the other side of a wall, even though you can't see them. But when you're in flow, like, it's a 50-50, right? They're either going to zig or they're going to zag, and you've got to kind of guess what they're going to do. And when you're in flow, you guess like
100% of the time,
answer, like
all the time.
Yeah, just guess
I miss it so much. Now I'm sad. It used to happen all the time. I remember this, like, on one of the front door of Green. I'm just standing on the barrel, like, for like a couple old base when it was a bit different. I'm just standing on the door. I'm just 1, 2 through the base. I just have this. I can remember doing it, and then I got killed, and I snapped out of it. And I was like, I actually just killed 15 people, and I don't even know what happened. Like, I just miss it. Maybe I should start meditating. I'm gonna start meditating. It's happening.
Do it, you actually. We all want to see Zen wax. Let's do it. All right, boys. Okay, let's move on to the next part of the pod now. That was a really great discussion about state of the game. Hopefully we get lots of listener questions and other things that they'd like us to discuss in the future. Please send them through. And the next part of the pod is in reference to a question that came up around how top-tier teams prepare for new arenas. So, I thought I'd start with you, Wax, and ask you, how do you guys prepare now compared to how you would prepare 5 years ago? Is there a difference? What have you?
I don't think so. Not really. I think we're just, like, we all know how we play, like each other. We all understand what we want. We all learn our own way. Like, I remember this year, I said to Husky, I was like, you need to do this. He's like, do not tell me how to last line. And I'm like, oh my God, calm down. And I'm like, what? This makes sense because of this. And he's like, I don't need you. Like, you can tell me and I'll take it, but I need to play how I want to play. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. And I think that's one thing that's like, it's always been like, we've always had very, like, everyone knows what they want. Everyone knows how they want to play. And you can look at a maze map, you can talk about it as much as you want, but unless you're in there and experiencing it and making, like, I think pre-natses, like, you learn, you're like, all right, I feel comfortable. And then you go. We usually go to Nats, and if like there is issues, we'll really sit over a maze map and be like, all right, this is what. But we don't really do too much when it comes to like new mazes and stuff. We definitely like will. I'll be like, if to say I used to do it a lot with Lakeo, more less than I do with Grub now. But we would like, I'd be like, oh, this works if you do this and I do that, and then if I say, we would always do this thing where I'd be like, do the thing, and then we'd do it, and that was it. Like, there's just a couple small things every so often that like you need to break a base. Like Sunny Coast was the big one where it was just like you needed actual teamwork to do a lot of things in that maze. So you needed to actually talk more and prepare. Well, usually I just run at things and just kill them, and then they'd die, and then something would happen. But that was the first year it didn't. But it's definitely progressed more. Like, but we also don't. I bet you we are the like one of the least prepared teams on the whole. Like out of all the teams, like every person who has come on our team has been like, "What the actual what is happening? Like, are we gonna speak?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'll speak at some point," and then it doesn't happen. Like
Usually, guys get off to a bit. You like typically get off to a bit of a rough start in round robin, don't you? Like while you're
yeah,
figuring shit out.
we just figure it out. We just figure it out as we go, and then
Yeah.
if it's bad, like if it's really bad, we sit down for like an hour, and then we talk, and then we're fine. Like if there's a big issue that we need to talk about more, like we definitely should have spoken more this year, and I think we would have had a better chance. But I think this year was definitely more like it was just hard to compete with. They were just better on the pack slightly, and Runt was just a menace. Like I would be like, I'm sitting on him. We are doubling, and we wouldn't double one time, and he'd kill 5, and I'm like, what? How does he kill 5 there? Like, so it's just like those small things that like made him like actually crazy in his own maze. But like preparation is like it's definitely laxed. Where like Volley was very confused when he joined our team. He was like, "What are these comms?" And he's like, "You guys just understand what you're saying, but your comms are actually dog shit." And I'm like, "You got to get used to it." And he's like, "All right, so if you say this like kind of broad thing, you mean this?" And we're like, "Yeah," but everyone else gets it because we've all played together for so long. So it's definitely difficult for like a new player to like join our team because they're like, what the actual hell is going on? Like they are not doing any of the things that I expected the team who's won for the last 4 years to be doing. Like this is not good.
Well, there you go. The answer is if you're incredibly talented, you don't have to do much. Just rock up and play. How about for us mortals, Holmes? What do we do?
I think definitely. I don't think there's much value in like spending time on a maze map without having played the arena, kind of like Wax was saying, because there's so many, you could like theorize and stuff, but ultimately I think a lot of it will end up just being wasted time because you're like, oh, that thing I was thinking of just gets destroyed by this sight line that isn't obvious on the maze map. So I think investing time on the maze map before you've played the arena is like not worth it. That being said, if you can get to a pre-nats, especially like a pre-nats 3 where the arena is the closest to what it'll be when you go to nationals, I think it's very valuable to then take what you get from that pre-nats and then apply what you can in terms of principles and like how you set up and stuff in your own arena. So let's say, I don't know, for instance, as an example, let's say your arena at home, each of the bases you can very effectively put like 2 people in, right? And like in the base, and you can just like lock it out, right? But then this arena you're going to for nationals that year, all of the bases you can't put 2 in the base. You can only put 1 in there because like it's just not set up in a way. Rather than keeping on playing your arena at home after you've learnt this the way you would play your arena, and sure, maybe you'll win more training games against like your teams are training against, if you have the opportunity to train against teams, obviously. Or just like if you're just doing drills and stuff, like you'll have success just getting 2 in the base and locking it out like we always do. I think it's definitely very valuable to try and play as close to what you would in this competition you're coming up in your own arena. So in that example, you just like wouldn't play with 2 in the base. Or for instance, with Bendigo Nationals, those bases were notoriously very difficult to actually defend with someone in. We ended up kind of finding a way that worked in the end of it. But when we were when we went to pre-nats as Aftershock, we were like, okay, yeah, we're not putting someone in the base. And so all of our training at home in the lead up to nationals, we didn't play with anyone in the base, even though in the context of our arena, it didn't make any sense. We probably dropped like heaps of games in training because the other guys are doing it, and then people are just steamrolling our base. But yeah, I think taking what principles you can from your arena you're preparing for after you've gotten some experience there and applying it to your own is something that Aftershock definitely makes a point of doing. And then I guess the last thing I would focus on is I feel like a lot of teams tend to put too much weight on the strategy, right? Like cooking up some crazy strategy for doing all these things in this arena when they haven't gotten a really good grasp of just like the fundamentals in this new arena, right? Like you can have the best strategy in the world, right? But if your fundamentals in terms of like it's reliant on your 3D defense, like actually being able to hold out people reliably, but you didn't spend much time and energy into, okay, how can we set up this defense to be like the best defense, right? Then that whatever cool overarching strategy you've cooked up is going to be worthless because people are just going to breeze through your base, right? So I think more emphasis on the little things and the fundamental skills, just because how you would apply them in a new arena is completely different. And then once you have a good baseline, a good foundation, and you know how you're going to set up for all your bases, you know how you like to set up to crack out each of the bases from each door because it's going to be different, then you can start cooking some pretty cool strategy stuff. But until then, like you're not going to have the mechanics and the fundamentals down to even execute on it, in which case it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's so true. It's like for most teams, most of the time, the results come from like doing the fundamentals consistently well for like the full 12 minutes. Hey, so like it's you learn all the comms and you're good at comming for 11 minutes. That's why you lose games. It's doing the fundamentals well for the full 12 minutes that gets the result. And just to add that to that as well, it's like when I rock up to a new arena, I like to play some games before we do any thinking about the arena. Like you're saying, like looking at the arena map is
getting
like
a vibe.
Pointless. Cool. Yeah, you got to like get in there and play a couple of games. You can walk the arena before you play those couple of games if you want. That's handy, but really, it's just about get a couple of games before you start thinking about it in too much depth. And then before the competition starts, get like your technicals down because once the competition starts, it's really hard to practice technicals. And by that, I mean like, can you hold that last line position so that nobody can shoot you? And then when you have to reach around to get somebody who's rushed the door, are you going to expose the shoulder to that door? And like practicing it over and over until you get your body movements 100% perfect every time where you don't show that sensor to somebody. All right, next person, go and get all like 5 or 6 of your team to know every single spot inside the base with it and to be able to play it without getting shot. Like to invest like a couple of hours of training into just doing that in a it's not a game scenario. It's just like drills. Drill those spots over and over and over and over again and get really good at those things because all the floats and the strategy side of things, that'll come throughout the tournament and you can like adjust that on the fly. What you can't adjust on the fly is like I never learned how to hold red base at Hobart very well. And then suddenly there was a situation where like we had to move some people around and then I had to go in there and hold it and I was terrible. And we dropped like 3 or 4 bases in one game because I was terrible inside red base. And I was like, okay, like if I had invested the time into doing that, like we wouldn't have dropped that game essentially. So yeah, I guess to address the question from the listener, that's kind of my fundamental thing is like get that sorted first and get your comms map sorted early too because it's like when you get to an end of a long day and you've played 10 games and your concentration's starting to wane, if you have to pause for like a half a second to try and remember that comm for that particular thing, last line gets shot out, somebody takes the base, you lose the game. Like it's practicing your comms like consistently from the very, very beginning and to be on point and like just perfectly timed so that when you're under pressure, they just come out. You don't have to like think about them because often you're playing in a foreign arena. It's a rote learned thing. You've got to learn all those comms, and that's going to take time. So start early and start like making sure you're consistent with it from the very beginning. Essentially,
I really wish every year we just had one comm sheet, and every single team just comm the same shit. It drives me nuts that someone's calling it monkey and someone else is calling it, I don't even know,
Hey.
like, yeah, literally. And I'm just like, please, just everyone I'll even drop front and back door if we have to. I will even do that if it means that everyone is commenting the same stuff. It drives me
How hard is it
absolutely nuts.
when some people call it front and back, and the other people call it front and back, but the
But
opposite
the opposite
direction? It's
Oh
like,
my
oh my god, my
gosh.
brain explodes.
Yeah. But I also think I
Yes.
misunderstood the question when I answered it before. I thought you were talking about at Nats. You were also talking about preparation before Nats, is right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I think a big thing for us was always like obviously trying to go to pre-nats. And everything that Ryan said was really good. I think that's something I do a lot. I don't not everyone wants to do that. Not everyone wants to sit there and like I played screen out for the whole last year because I was so worried about being shot in the gun a lot. And I thought that was very useful, but one thing I didn't take into consideration is my mechanics got so much worse because of playing screen out. And I could not switch shot well. I couldn't I like usually I'm like switch shotting 50% of the time, even in duels. But because I had played screen out all year, you can't switch shot nicely on Helios Pro. So when I got to Nats, I was like, I felt so rusty, and I like played screen out for 6 months, so I felt really good on like exposing my phaser and stuff. But my normal mechanics weren't as up to par. So it's just like it's one of those things where there's like you can do these things like what Ryan said about practicing 5 out of the base, but then look, they go to Nats and then they play someone in the base because they found that it worked better for them. So like there's always like you can't prepare for everything. You have to prepare for what you're good at, in my opinion, and try and just be the best you can at what you're good at. And then if you can do that, you can have that 5% extra in a game, 10% extra in over 3 matches. Like it's just those small things that you are really good at as a team. You just need to work on those. And if you can't win at them, you need to just like it's just another thing. The next year we need to be better at these things. Everyone needs to do this.
Yeah.
And if you don't have a good mindset,
Yeah.
like I would argue with people at training about I was trying to ban people holding walls because with the Gundam on the wall, 'cause this is useless for us at Nats in 3 months. Please stop doing this. But people don't have the right mindset to do it. So they're like, no, I want to win training. I want to do well now. Like I don't care about what you want to do. Like we care about what now. Like I always yell at Shock because he always holds. We have a spot in blue, and he just holds it. I'm like, please stop doing this, Shock, and he just does it to troll me now. But it's just like one of those things where like it is a mindset. If you don't have the mindset to like actually improve on the things that you need to improve on, you're just going to be stuck, and you're not going to actually get better, and that's just going to make you
I
drop.
think on that note, like you just spurred my memory. So obviously in Adelaide we've been playing on Nexus for the last like 6 years, and for those that haven't played Nexus, there is like a significant advantage to the active player because there's a pretty harsh trigger lockout for the deactivated player, and so as an active player on Nexus, your playstyle can basically be just like chasing people around and just sitting on top of them and like just caution to the wind. Like it doesn't really matter as long as I am up when this person activates. Like they're gonna lose this duel, and so on Nexus you can kind of get away with chasing people a lot more. But as soon as you take trigger lockout out of the equation, you got people doing that, and then suddenly they're just like losing duels or getting doubled with, and like suddenly the way you play is different. So at home, I always encourage people like when they're taking a duel. Obviously, to an extent, there's only so much you can do about it. But like rather than sitting on top of someone and chasing them, like well, put like I don't know a panel or a barrel between you two and take the duel like you would if there wasn't trigger lockout, rather than just like abusing the system and getting results now. That's something I've always been a big proponent for. That being said, preparing for this Albury tournament, all of us that are going to pre-nats are very much abusing it right now. So I can't wait for that. That's going to be fun. It's cool to be able to prepare for a tournament on the same system for the first time in 6 years. But anyway, the other thing is when we do attack versus defense drills at home, the way our bases are set up is each of the bases have like a sweep where like assuming no one else is in the arena, if you're a door defender, you could like no one's on your door, you could go through the sweep and you could like shoot all the people trying to set up on the other door in the back. But as soon as you go to try to do that in a team game, you're just going to get shot by some field pointer or someone. And so I'm always an advocate in your AVDs to, especially for the door defenders, like play your door as if you would play it in a team game. Like assume there's going to be some field pointer or some sniper over there that's preventing you to be able to go through the sweep, because in a team game you're not going to be able to do it. And then if you're abusing it in drills, then you're not getting anything out of this, right? So yeah, you reminded me of that.
You really triggered me right now. This is all I ever say to people. And I'm always like, why are we doing this? Please, this doesn't matter right now.
Yeah,
it was like,
people definitely care too much about winning training, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think the big one for us at Brizzy was everybody just hanging their phaser nozzles out last year when we knew that we were going into an arena where you're going to get tagged heaps in the phaser. But people just insisted to panel up and just have their phaser sitting there. You're not going to be able to do that in Hobart, but
I argued with too many people last year about it. Way too many people.
The amount of times, like, me or I think, pretty much everyone on Aftershock, like during training in the lead up to Hobart, like we would see someone like just completely overextending their phaser, and it like Nexus, like the phaser shots you can, but like they're not great. They could be pretty inconsistent, and it's not great. And then like you'd always just like mutter under your breath, you're like, oh, if it was H2, I would have got them just then.
Yeah. All right, lads. So we're coming up to completion soon. So I've got a couple more questions I wanted to throw in the space. The next one's to you, Mr. Wax. Where do you think your guys can improve, Catalyst?
That's a big question.
Where do you start? No.
So many things.
Like there's definitely a lot we could. Like there's always every team ever, even the best teams ever, can improve. Like no matter what. Like everyone sucks at something, and you can always be improving no matter what. Like there's no, if you are ever like I am the best and I don't need to do anything, that's just wrong. Like, it is wild how many. Oh, sorry, you go.
Let's just say the top one or two things. Like what would have the most impact on your game if you guys could improve in this one or two areas?
Like from this year, from
this year.
Definitely like Grub and I working together better, or we just dropped it and we just let Dodge and Grub play together and I play mid or something. Like I definitely think that could be a big improvement. Just like communication from attack to defense as well is like kind of average. It's not bad, but it's not good enough. We just rely, like our back end is so strong that like no matter what happens in the front, it's like not always the end of the world. Where like if it was better communication back and forth, it could be like we could know that we were slightly ahead and we could maybe want to push and we could pull someone out or do something to just keep the foot on the gas. I don't know what else. Husky not covering, maybe? I don't know.
Screw that guy, man.
I actually don't know. Like I think there's definitely like a lot of small things. Just like, especially because I'm gonna throw a thing out there, but I'm not gonna say what. But our team is changing again this year, so that's gonna and it's big and it's literally gonna completely change everything that we do. So we're gonna have to pretty much relearn how to play LSA together. So
you heard it here first, folks. Well, depending on when this
we got the
comes
scoop.
out.
We got the scoop.
Yeah, well, Brisbane. A lot of Brisbane already knows, but probably just doesn't know yet. Maybe he does. I don't know. But yeah, should be interesting. That's going to be the big improvement we're going to need, is like working on those fundamentals again, pretty much, and then building it back up as a team.
Yeah. Well, I think everybody's going to be looking forward to seeing what that change is, because I think depending on which player or players it is going to make a massive difference to you guys. And I'm not sure if you know yet, Holmes, but there's been another big change in Queensland in the last day or two.
There's a lot of cooking in Queensland right now.
There's been cooking. Have a guess of which team might be disbanding.
I'm going to say Eclipse. Eclipse is gone.
No.
Nah.
Starts with an S, finishes with a Partons.
Oh. No way. That's wild.
Yes. So they are
Oh my
disbanding.
goodness.
So we don't know what the results of that are yet, and this pod will come out, I hopefully in a fortnight's time from when we're actually recording it, which is on the Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody.
Happy Halloween.
So the information is public, which is why we can talk about it. But yeah, there's going to be big shake-ups in Queensland for Albury.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
I think same in Adelaide as well. We've got quite a few people that are taking a year off or just wanted to change teams and stuff. So, I mean, not much is 100% yet. But yeah, the Adelaide landscape is going to be pretty different next year. For what I can confirm for Aftershock is that Chutch and Fuggan are gone. Fuggan's taken a year off because he's gone on an exchange to Japan for 6 months, and then Chutch has just either taking a year off, or she's not going to be able to commit to laser tag as much. So if she does play, it'll be on a different team. And so Aftershock will be Mikey captaining, Beefy, myself. Dossie's back.
Cool.
Dossie's back from his year off, and then we've picked up Jesse from Adrenaline. So that's our 5 right now. And we're looking at picking up it finally happened. He said yes. Woo! And we're looking at picking up a 6th. And then Apex as well is it's looking like currently from last year it's only Memeless, Marmaduke and Bonfire that are still there. So they're going to be picking up 3 new players. So yeah, things be shaking, things be cooking everywhere.
Wow.
By the looks.
Yeah. Big shake-ups. That's yeah.
I think it's exciting. It's refreshing.
Exciting. Well, I was quite excited. Like, you never want to see a team like disband, I guess. Well,
yeah,
you don't want to ill wish on anybody. But the excitement of change, I guess, was present when I heard the news. I was like,
I heard it a while ago, and I was like, please, I want to see the implosion and whatever comes from it. Like, it could go crazy. So we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, there's opportunities for everybody in Queensland, including the players on that team, the players not on that team. So let's see how that all pans out. Get your popcorn out, ladies and gentlemen. All right. So, Mr. Wax, what level of interest do you and your team have in Worlds? Going to Worlds in New Zealand next year?
So, we had a lot of interest. Not all of us. It was mainly me, Husky, and Little Bo. We were very keen. We had organised pretty much, not officially or anything, but we'd spoken to Runt multiple times about making a team with us 3 plus Twinkles, Runt, CV. So it was going to be the 6 of us. But then we found out a lot of the Europeans and a lot of other people weren't going to be attending. So if we do go, it won't be that team. It will be like split up so that the tournament isn't as like, so we didn't have such a stacked team. And so the tournament could actually be interesting if people did want to end up going. But we don't know. So we'll have to, it's kind of just a waiting and seeing, and I kind of want to see, I want to like expression of interest kind of thing to see what people want. Because obviously we're not going to New Zealand next year. So Aubrey's cheap. You can just, it's not that, it's pretty cheap. So like going to New Zealand isn't the end of the world. There's enough time as well to save money and have time off and it'd be interesting
when
to
it was looking like Nats was going to be in New Zealand as well. It was definitely like, like you have to choose one. Like for most people, it's like this is going to be so much money. But with it being in Albury now, definitely much more financially feasible for sure.
It's gonna be it'd be so amazing to see that combination of 6 get together. We had a chat about movement about this as well, about just how we haven't ever put our best team in to Worlds ever. It would just be amazing to finally say, I actually think we'd probably put close to our best team together. You could argue that would be one of our best combos we could have made. So it would be like an absolute laser tag experiment to see that team go up against the best of Finland, Sweden, and the US. But let's see. Hopefully they get their dollars together and come over. Yeah. What goals do you still have in laser tag, Mr. Wax? For somebody who's achieved much, what are your goals?
I need to win solos. I need to actually win. I need to actually win law. I got.
How many seconds?
I got 2nd and a 3rd. I need to win it now. I got 2nd to Lake Yo for solos, so I need to actually win. I need to win solos, which I'm not. I think it's gonna be difficult because I'm not very like. It's not. Doesn't work for how I play. I definitely think I can win law. I just need to get past round 1. Every time I get past round 1, I make it to finals. But if I don't get past round 1, it's like obviously I get out. But like, yeah,
Maybe that's all I'm missing. I just need to make it past
I'm
round 1,
telling
and I'm
you.
guaranteed a
I'm
finals
telling
appearance.
you. You and I next year, I have an off year, and then I win. I make finals. Off year, my finals. So next year, finals. You just have to make it past round 1.
Yeah, I just have like 8 off years in a row. That is the 9th one.
Obviously, I want to win again after losing. It's definitely going to be more difficult, especially with roster changes and stuff. But if we work towards it, we definitely can do it. Especially seeing Vikings are going to be out of their home maze, people are going to have more experience on H2. It's not going to be as like. I still like a lot of people I hear are like, oh, they're going to be bad. They're not at home anymore. Shut up. Just stop speaking. You don't do what they did. Like that is cope. That is hard cope. Stop drooling crap out your mouth. Just think about it actually. Like think about it properly. Like they are going to still do well. They're still going to be in finals. They're still going to do really well. Like they might not be as dominant. Run's still going to be crazy. Twinkle's still going to be crazy on H2. Like CV's still going to be crazy on H2. It's just going to be what happens with the back end and if they can hold up out of their own maze, in my opinion. But obviously winning, getting like not the Grand Slam. I don't care about like doing it all in 1 year. My ego's not that large anymore. I just want to do everything once. And I would like to win Worlds. Or at least go to Worlds and get dumpstered and it be an experience at least one time. Like, because we were supposed to go for 2020 and then COVID happened. And that, like, I definitely think we could have won if we could adapt to it quickly. If like we enjoyed it. I think it was more if we went there and we're like, this is terrible. Like we don't enjoy this format. It might have been an issue. But if we went there and we're like, actually, this is fun. We enjoy this. This maze is fun. Like we were definitely a big vibe team. Like if we were having fun and enjoying it, we would do better. So I just wish COVID didn't happen. COVID ruined laser tag. God damn it, COVID.
Yeah, have you guys played a tournament on 1 shot per second and stuns before?
Probably like just in Brisbane. Like we've probably done it before. And like triples. And...
No, you got to play a tournament on it, mate. You got to play a tournament. I think you guys will love it because people were saying, "Oh, I don't know how they're going to go with H2. They only ever played Helios." I'm like, these guys. It's
cope.
Too young.
It's just cope. It's always cope.
I know.
People just make excuses.
Eat it up. Don't worry about that. And you did. You did eat it up.
I love it. I think 2 is better than Pro. I think Pro sucks ass. Like Pro is bad. The sound is bad. Shooting down the barrel actually works a lot better than I expected it to. Just everything about 2 is better. The only thing was the hit reg on the back. If they fix that, which I'm pretty sure I've heard they're going to, it's fixed. So boom, we're good. We're like chilling. Actually, best of all worlds combined in this one pack.
Very much. Final question for you, mate. What's your advice for new players who want to get to the highest level?
Be honest with yourself. Like, if you suck at something, you don't have to go around and be like, I suck. Just keep close to your chest what you suck at and work on it. And ask people who are running training if like you could do something where like maybe you always put your hand up to defend if in attack versus D, and you always just last line. Even if you know you're not going to last line, you just want to get better at it. You want to do it. I always say I help, like when I was helping people more and caring more about laser tag, when I would like help a new person learn, I'd just say stand on every person's toes. Whoever it is, stand on their toes and fight them every time. Fight them. Do not panel. Fight them. And just fight them until you feel comfortable. And then go to the next thing. And then you need to be able to be comfortable in duels. If you can't be comfortable in duels, you're going to back down in everything you do. Like, you're not going to want to do that. You're not going to have confidence to do it. So if you have confidence to duel anyone, then you're good. Like, I think it's a good stepping stone. Maybe not on Nexus. If you told someone to do that on Nexus, they'd just get absolutely dumpstered and it'd be terrible.
They're like, wow, I'm pretty good at this.
But I definitely think there's like, you have to be honest with yourself. There's so many players who are like had been at a level for so long that think they're better than they are, and they're not honest with themselves, and they want to get better, then they don't actually think about what they need to do or do anything about it. Like you need to be honest with yourself. Like I know, like the amount of times I'll just be like, I'm last lining because I'm like, I'm not bad at last lining, but I'm not good at last lining. So I'll just be like, put me in the base, let me go, let me cook, and I'll get absolutely shit on, and it's fine. Like who cares? It's training. Don't matter. Training does not matter either. Stop caring about training, please, for the love of God. Stop doing team games as well. At you, Ryan. At Adelaide. That's my cook. Do more drills. Drills make you better. Do team games every so often to refine, like gameplay stuff. But drills. Talk to people as
Yeah,
well. One
lots.
thing I always say to people, sorry, but one thing I always say to people is like, if I'm like flexing and like saying like, this is how you play. I am Wax. I've won 4 times. This is how you should do it. Take what I say, but then also listen to the next person. But then take that and adapt it to how your body type, your play style, everything. Like you can't just listen to someone because what I say isn't going to work for you like every time. It might help, but you just got to keep that in mind. You actually have to just think about yourself and your limitations and blah 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 blah, all that stuff.
Wow, so many nuggets in there, everybody. I totally agree
'em
with
up.
everything you said there, Wax. And yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the pod today, mate. Hope you've enjoyed yourself.
I'm dying. It is so hot right now.
You are going to be released to your fan and air conditioned room in about 30 seconds' time. We're going to farewell everybody first, though. Thanks so much for jumping on, Mr. Holmes. Great to hang with you guys. And yeah, peace out until next time.
Thank you. Have fun.
Bye.
Bye.